Hey guys, and happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in today's episode, I just kind of want to touch on the unrealistic expectations that we have for ourselves. I can honestly say, being 24, I think that it's just seriously unfair to have certain expectations of yourself. You're young. You don't know much, right? And I'm not saying that you're not knowledgeable or that you're not smart or that you're not enough. But what I am saying is that the pressures to make life-altering decisions in your early 20s is just so ridiculous. You know what I mean? Trying to have it all figured out. I think that in order to have it figured out, you have to work towards it actively, right? And I've been doing that since I left school, like working towards figuring out what it is that I want to do. And I left school when I was I was definitely not 17. I was like, I was 20. I was 20. And so here at year 4, I'm like, okay, I have an idea, right? And I'm going to go and do this. But each year for me looked like trial and error. Right. And then I also think, too, like even in regards to your romantic relationships and dating relationships, being with people are putting this pressure to find this person or be with this person. You have no clue where your life is going to be within the next 5 to 10. And that's why I think for me, I told you guys hey, I was like, I really don't want to settle because I don't know if this is the best thing right now. And I think if we could just kind of open the door to say, I don't know. And my bad, that is my air fryer in the background. I got me some Boca chicken nuggets in the air fryer. So excuse me. But if we can just open the door and say, I don't know, then that can create so much more possibility. You know, I just got off the phone with my dad, and I'm so thankful that I did have my dad, and just, he's always been my rock and my guidance. I'm such a daddy's girl, but I literally think that for myself, it just was just so important to just kind of recognize that you don't know and you don't have to know. You know what I mean? So take these unrealistic expectations off of yourself to have things figured out and to have, X, Y, and Z. And I want to let y'all know this too, because my younger siblings, they're always talking smack about what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. Right. And I want to encourage anybody who is kind of in the space of social media, which is pretty much everyone, and you're kind of somewhat on the social listening to this. You guys, when it comes to life, if you don't go to college, right? And here's the thing too, I talked to you guys about this a little bit in the subscription service, but when it comes to college, it's always seen as such a negative thing. And for myself, the only reason I didn't go back to college was because I owed money. And I was like, okay, at this point, I'm going to just take a chance on me. But let me just tell you, and that's honestly not to say that I will never go back, right? But let me just tell you the level of grit, resilience, it births a different skill set. Life will definitely birth a different skill set. But I will say that you gotta be strong. You have to be really strong. And I'm not saying okay, you can't just get a job and be cool, but no, life happens. I'm dealing with some things in my place. Things just happen to where it's you gotta be strong. It's not easy not having a path or not having steady income in regards to what you want to do, or a steady, you know what I mean? If you want to work a job, that's fine. At least it will create you, give you a sense of stability. You know what I mean? And I just think that when it comes to this entrepreneur life, nobody talks about it. People talk about it, but not really. And they oftentimes don't want to talk about it in depth, or maybe I'm just called to talk about it in a little bit more detail. But, for me, it's just it's just something that's not easy. And it takes so much to persevere and to continuously keep going and moving forward. And so I wanted to get on here and share with anybody who definitely does not want to go to college. I talked to you guys about this in the subscription service, but I'll say it over here. You want to make sure that you are definitely creating some sense of foundation for your life. So if you're in high school right now and you're you know what, I don't want to go to college, or if you're living with your mom and you're okay, I'm not going to college, figure out a way to make money. And I'm not talking about entrepreneurship, because that, like I said, this journey, you guys, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think that it's for everyone. You know what I mean? And I know people say, oh, it can be birthed. Oh, it can be. No, I don't think that everybody's wired for this. And I'm just being honest, right? So anyway, figure out a way to make money. You can be a dental hygienist, right? There are some young ladies who I know who've done that. You can find other ways to create a means for yourself. And, who knows? Maybe you'll meet someone, or you guys can build, or you'll find something else through those programs, through networking and just doing something that you semi-enjoy or you love. But I just think that the importance of kind of getting out there, right, and having some sense of independence, I think that it can birth something amazing. Now, the opposite side of this, too, is if your parents were fortunate enough to buy you a house, or fortunate enough to pay your rent, or you're fortunate enough to where you can live at home and it's enough freedom and it's not chaotic, and you can actually take the time to explore some of your interests and the things that you want to do, and it's funded, right? That's like a plus. But what I noticed with a lot of the youth is like, people are sitting at home, not doing nothing, not figuring it out, not even trying to make a way. And that right there is actually very crippling, because at some point you have to learn how to stand on your own feet, and you have to learn to be independent in regards to taking care of yourself as an individual. Okay. This is the thing. People put so many negative connotations around independence. You guys, what if you don't want to eat hot dogs? What if you're a vegan? Now you ain't even got no money to go buy you no vegan meat. Okay. Like it's so many different things that go into this. Like, being an individual and being independent does not mean that you don't need anybody. Like I just told you, I got the phone with my dad. Like, I need people. Right. But what I realized is that there's a lifestyle that I want to live. And at least being independent, being able to take care of myself, I at least have somewhat of some freedom to go and do the things and enjoy the things in which I want to enjoy. Right. It's kind of like a preface for what's to come, right? I'm setting myself up in that way by the grace of God. So I just think that it's just important to just understand that when it comes to these things, you guys, like, you just have to be in a space where you realize, like, at some point I have to figure it out. At some point I need to make some money, like, whether that's going to get, like, I say get a trade. It's inexpensive. And then what's so crazy is that, for me, I always knew I was going to go to college, right? Now, granted, I didn't finish my program, but I just think my life is my life and it's my journey, and I'm loving it. I've never done anything for money. Me and my dad just was laughing about this, because if you know me, you know that Jaylin has done nothing for money. It's literally so hard for me to do things for money. My track record, y'all already know, right? So I'm always geared by doing what it is that I love. And I think I was doing that before I even knew what that was, right? Like, before the conversation was even had. So, I've been very blessed in regards to that, right? Like, I see, my grandfather was a wood carver. So I was really able to see people do the things that they love. You know what I mean? And my dad would remodel homes and do his clothing brand. So I was able to see that. And I think for me, I fell in love with that creative spirit that's just innate and in my family lineage. And I was like, yeah, I'm carrying this out. So I just wanted to say that, because I just think it's important, like, you guys, you gotta figure something out for yourself. And I'm not saying it has to be set in stone, but at least that'll be something that you experience in your journey, right? Like, how cool is it to be like, oh, cool, I did get this trade, and oh, I did go and do this and live here and move, you know what I mean? People it's like, oh, it's all these bills and it's stressful. And I do think to an extent it is. Like, I definitely think it is. And, obviously I can only speak from my experience and what I've gained from doing it this way. Like I said, if you're still living at home and you got a peace of mind and, it's not anything that's problematic, but that's fine. But like, it just seems like there's a lot of people at home who are not doing anything to figure it out. And I think sometimes if you're pushed off the porch a little bit, like, you're going to be a little bit more willing to figure it out versus being at home where you're kind of coddled and comfortable and you're still in the same room when you were young, right? So now it's like there's just this level of comfort and certainty. So you're not really eager to figure it out, especially if you don't have anybody encouraging you to figure it out, right? Because you think that, okay, it's going to fall on my lap, but it's not. I got to figure out what it is that I want to do in this space from trial and error, from doing so many different things, you know what I mean? And actively seeking, like, okay, what is my life going to be? What am I going to do, right? Understanding the materialism and the materialistic possessions that I do want to have, but also recognizing, like, okay, what do I want the quality of my life to be? Like, how do I want to show up? Like, how do I want, you know what I mean? So it's really just, it's all of that encompassing, it's all of that encompassing. And it's important, it's definitely important, because nobody's going to do that for you. And like I said, entrepreneurship, it's definitely not for everybody. So, when it comes to college, if you know what it is that you want to do, definitely go to school. See if you can get some scholarships. Take high school a little bit more seriously, because those scholarships actually come a dime a dozen if you can be a good scholar. Man, I wish, just get a couple A's every semester. Trust me, high school is not hard. Get A's and be on your way. My dad made that decision for me. I didn't have an option. And even when I kind of had an option, I didn't really have an option, right? Because it was at the forefront of my mind, but I'm like, okay, what am I going to study? Right. And I didn't know what I was going to study. So I didn't work towards scholarships, or I didn't, it wasn't even in my mind. And so I say that to say, if you go to school and you do what it is that you love, you guys, the opportunities that college afford are things like networking, right? It's like studying abroad. I met this girl at my last job. She was so dope. And, you know, she told me that she had studied like in Germany and did all of these really cool medical research projects. And I just think that sometimes we only put negative things around college and education, but it's really dope. And especially if you're someone who, you know, you need discipline first and foremost. So, you know, college can also give you disciplinary skills, right? It can strengthen you in regards to that. It can strengthen you in regards to your resourcefulness. Like when I moved out, and honestly, living in a dorm is actually a pretty dope experience. I definitely want my kids to experience that if they want, right? But living in a dorm is a really, really great experience. I did that. I was like 17 in this dorm. My college experience was funny. I talked to you guys about that in the subscription service, but that was like really dope, you know? So there are just so many things that so many doors that can open for you, especially if you know what it is that you want to do, right? And let's also talk about how college is so good because it actually gives you the opportunity to move away, right? You can totally go live in your favorite state or the state you want to live in, New York, LA, Houston, I don't know, X, Y, and Z, right? You can go and live there and they can actually pay for it and fund it, right? So it's like, it's the best of both worlds, right? And you're also gaining those skills, right? Like I talked about discipline and responsibility and networking and learning how to talk to people and, you know, be in diverse communities and things like that, as well as honing in on your skills, right? So a lot of people talk negatively about college. It's really because when you graduate and you didn't take advantage of the opportunities, you didn't get anything out of the experience. And you didn't get anything out of the experience because you went and you didn't know what you wanted to do, right? So if you know what you want to do or if you have some slight idea, then I say go for it. You know what I mean? Definitely go for it. Like there are definitely a lot of really, really dope opportunities that are there. And so I highly encourage it. I don't know I don't even know where we're at in this podcast episode. I'm going to have to replay this. But I just have to get on here and say that because, you know, I know that so often people, you know, they just kind of like, oh, you know, living at home. And honestly, for a lot of Black people, that's not always the case, you know. And here's the thing, you guys. I'm not really speaking to those who are privileged. Like I'm speaking to those who don't have those same privileges, you know what I mean? And those same liberties in regards to housing and, you know, resources and things like that. So let's also make that very clear. Like clearly this is not going to be for someone who, you know, I'm just saying, double-edged sword, but gain a lot either way, right? And at the end of the day, if you don't know and you're not figuring it out, at some point you are going to have to figure it out. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like you better figure it out now, or you're going to have to wait until your 30s or 40s. But you're going to have to figure it out. Like that's just period. You know what I mean? At some point you will have to figure it out. So yeah, kick the bad habits and kick the bad company and go out there and soar. All right, guys, I hope everybody has a great day, and thanks for listening.